All right. I'd like to call to order the Committee on Public Services for May 19th, 2021. Mike, if you can take roll.
Yeah, we'll start with Committee Chair Farrington.
Commissioner Farrington voting remotely from Utica, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Commissioner Kleinfeld voting from East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Romano.
Commissioner Romano, District 4, Sterling Heights, present and participating remotely in Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft.
Commissioner Phil Kraft attending remotely from Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Haw.
Commissioner Haw attending remotely, Roseville, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Wallace.
Commissioner Wallace attending remotely from Mount Clemens, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Song.
Commissioner Song attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Commissioner Van Sickle attending remotely, Sterling Heights, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Barb Zinner attending remotely, Harrison Township, Michigan, Macomb County.
Commissioner Matuzik.
Commissioner Matuzik participating remotely, Clinton Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Commissioner Sabatini attending remotely from Mount Clemens, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Nard.
Commissioner Nard attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Chair Brown.
Attending remotely from Washington Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
And that completes the roll.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next item on the agenda is Pledge Allegiance. Everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks. Next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. I'd like to have a motion to adopt.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Second, Van Sickle.
The motion has been made by Romano. Commissioner Van Sickle supported it. Any discussion? Mike, please put up the vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you very much. The next item is approval of the minutes dated April 21st, 2021. I'd like to have a motion to approve.
So move, Haw.
Support Nard.
Motion made by Haw, supported by Nard. Any discussion? Being no discussion, let's vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. At this point, I'd like the next item on the agenda is public participation. This is the first opportunity for public participation. It's for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes on any item that is on today's agenda. Later, we'll have another opportunity for public participation for those who wish to speak on issues other than what's on today's agenda. For those planning to speak during public participation, please be advised, according to Rule 21 of the adopted board rules, personal attacks, coarse and derogatory language, and cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be removed from the meeting. Also, those who call in by phone for public participation will be asked to speak first in an orderly fashion. Those who join virtually will be asked to type their name into the Google chat box. Those names will then be called in the order in which they are received. Staff, do we have anyone that wishes to participate in public participation?
Chair, we do not have anyone in the chat box, and there doesn't appear to be anyone waiting on the phone either.
Okay, thank you very much, Adriana. For those out there, hit *6 to unmute yourself if you're on a phone. Seeing no one for public participation, that agenda item is closed. At this point, we have presentation. I'd like to ask for a motion. This is a presentation on Macomb Library for the blind and physically handicapped. I'd like to have a motion to receive and file.
Commissioner Song, motion to receive and file.
Zinner, second.
Song makes the motion. Zinner supported the motion. And I believe we have Larry Neal and Vicky Rowinski here. Take it away.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Vicky Rowinski with Planning and Economic Development. We've had a 10-year program with the Clinton Macomb Library of the Blind and Handicapped, physically handicapped. This contract is up for renewal. On the line today, you have Larry Neal, who is the director for the library, to talk about the services. We had met with him earlier this year to talk about what that programming looks like and the economic impact it has to Macomb County. And we felt that it's probably right to bring it to this group because we got a lot of new faces on the commission. So with that, I will pass it on to Larry.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you very much. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, appreciate it.
Okay, very good. Well, it's a wonderful topic to be able to talk to you about, a 10-year partnership, as Vicki mentioned. As any of you who know me, libraries have been a part of my life since I started 39 years ago in high school. I'll mention for Chair Brown, that was Rochester Adams High School. And that was my first job. And so I've been in libraries ever since. I got a library science degree from the University of Michigan. I've been at the Clinton Macomb Public Library for the last 22 years and the director for the last 15. So today's topic, the Macomb Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. I wanted to mention I also have Camille Silda, the library board president, with me, Ann Mandel, who is the Library for the Blind librarian, and Megan Mott, outreach manager. So I know for many of you this may be a new topic, so I wanted to give you a brief overview of what the service is, what's provided, some statistics, a little bit of feedback from our customers, of course the finances, and then my hope that you will entertain extending this partnership for another 10 years. The Library for the Blind services began in 1931 when Congress created the National Library Service. When you think about it, a disability is something that's unpredictable and can happen to any of us at any time. In Macomb County in 2019, for those under age 65, for example, with a disability, it's 9.8% of the population. In 1983, the Macomb Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped was established. For those of you that recall the Macomb County Library that was up on Hall Road and Garfield, it was located in that building. In 2010, the Macomb County Library closed, and the year after that, the county started looking for a new home for the Library for the Blind. And that prompted a conversation. The Clinton Macomb Public Library was approached about that. We're still fairly central to the county. For those of you that have been to any of our libraries, I think that you know that we are a pretty high quality operation and one of Michigan's top 10 libraries. So in 2011, we came up with a contract for how that service could be transferred over to the Clinton Macomb Public Library and then offered to all residents of Macomb County on the contractual basis for 10 years. So in 2012, that's when we took over a space in the main library that used to be a library store and is now the physical home of the Macomb Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. In 2019, I'll mention that the National Library Service changed its name to for the Blind and Print Disabled. And then one other thing that I know will warm your hearts, about a year or two after we came up with this partnership, Oakland County copied us and did a very similar model for the Oakland Talking Library Book Service with the Rochester Hills Public Library. So what's offered, as you may imagine, books. People that are using the service are not necessarily entirely blind. They may have a variety of visual impairments, but they're not able to read standard print. So large print, and for any of us going through that time of life when you just can't quite see things as clearly as you used to, is a great thing to be able to still read a book, even though the type is much larger and the books are a bit heavier. Audio cartridges are certainly what most people would think of in terms of the service. So it's a book that is read to you. Download is something that has evolved from the National Library Service so that people can download directly to a device. And then, of course, Braille. Although Braille, I'll mention, is used only by a very small percentage of our users, maybe 5% or less. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a little bit. Magazines and newspapers are also offered in the cartridge format. You can see in that picture there, which is a physical item that goes in a proprietary device, the download option, and Braille as well. And then we also have a variety of equipment, supplies, and things to help people adapt to the visual impairments that they're dealing with. I will mention also with large print, and one of the benefits that you get from that library being hosted here, we're able to dedicate about $4,000 of the budget for the library for the blind for large print books. But my library spends about $26,000 a year, and all of those titles are available to the library for the blind users. So it's a much broader, more current, well-curated collection. Then, of course, reference and the assistance for getting people onto the system and subscribed and figuring out how to use it. My librarians here all have a master's level degree. We provide Reading is for Everyone. This is a newsletter that comes out in large print format and as well on audio format, recommending titles for people that they may be interested in reading, talking about our services and some of our classes. We also offer training and technical support, programming in person, by phone, and we continue to innovate. So one of the items that we've started is a book discussion by phone so that people can still have that rich discussion and participate without having to physically leave their homes, although all of us have been learning what it feels like to be homebound. These customers that we have that on a more permanent basis. And then community presentations to different groups to help build awareness at Senior Vision and other types of workshops and events that occur throughout the county. As I mentioned, adaptive technology, we've got a whole variety of things. As anyone who's experienced visual loss of vision, you know that it impacts people in all different ways. Some people need a higher level of magnification, others can't hold a magnifier, and so we have a whole set of kits that people can try out and try at home to see what works best for them. And then we also have an interesting collection of DVDs with a special audio description. People that want to continue with their lives, and many of them probably were very active moviegoers, but it's tough sometimes when activities are occurring on a screen and there's no narration or, discussion or dialogue going on. And so these have a special track, a narration track that will describe the events. My favorite illustration of this is Forrest Gump and the opening scene with the feather that gently swirls through the air and lands in Forrest Gump's hand. And so the narration will tell the person attending what is going on with that action. We've partnered with the Macomb Intermediate School District with their students and consultants so that we make sure that they have access to our resources and are aware of those, and get that early on for people that are dealing with vision loss earlier in life. And it's been a great intergenerational aspect to our programming to be able to have younger and older participants in our programs. We recently offered, I should say recently in 2019, a petting zoo of technology, because it is something of interest to people of all ages, whether it's something that can help you read a bill in your wallet. There's all sorts of things being invented, and we want to keep current of what those advances are and help to educate people if something can make their lives easier. And then we even had a student work experience for some of them to try out here at the library, which is an environment where we are used to working with people with visual impairments. And so it's a great way to get their feet wet and get that first job experience. And hey, you may end up like me 39 years later working in a library still. This is a highly specialized service. This is not just something that most libraries offer. It has its own catalog system for checking items out. It has features where there are extensive questionnaires to determine a person's interests. If there are things they do not want, they don't want swear words in their audiobooks, for example. So it's very specific and tailored to this audience. So it's not a general system that most library staff members would be familiar with. And then the download systems are all proprietary because they're intended to be distributed only to the users who are eligible of the service. The great thing about the downloads system is that once that title is available, every single person that uses that service has access to it. So they don't have to wait in line for things. They have to wait is for it to be converted to the format that then is played by the players for these customers. As I mentioned, many of these, most are senior citizens. So imagine your parent, grandparent who has lost vision, trying to deal with just that loss of independence. And then here is a new technology. You loved reading. Here's a solution, but you have to learn a new piece of technology. And I won't pick on seniors because I do know many that embrace technology and that are wonderful, but many struggle. And so trying to deal with multiple challenges at one time really can lead to isolation. And this is a great joy to be able to say you enjoyed reading, or maybe you didn't have time to read. We're here. It's a communication directly with us. You don't have to have an intermediary help you out. We can talk about a great book, talk about what it is that you need, and connect you to those resources. But it does require a good amount of hand-holding. Anne can tell you that many of our calls, most of our calls, are not short calls like they are with somebody who calls quickly. They want a bestseller, we put it on hold, and that's it. And there is an isolation aspect to it, and that's a role that libraries can help with in communities in general, but in particular this community. And in our recent surveys, as you can see on the screen, 2/3 of them don't have broadband at home, and 51% of them prefer books by mail, which again could be cartridges or large print, over the download option. Our statistics are interesting. You might look at them and say these numbers are not gigantic, but each one of these represents a person that we've spent a decent amount of time getting them acquainted with the technology and using the service. As I mentioned, many are older and up there in years, and we do have about a 16 to 18% turnover due to death, or they need to move in with a family member for caregiving, or they move out of the community. The minute they move out of Macomb County, they would need to find the service at wherever they are living at that time. Most of them, find our service through referral, medical providers, social rehabilitation workers, and then 1/3 of them friends, family, and certainly having that physical presence here in our building does help people become aware that that service is available. In addition to that, program attendance has been going up. It's been an area we've been trying to focus on. Initially, it was getting used to offering the service. And then as we start to increase outreach, come up with different ways that we can provide programming for people, understanding what their needs and their challenges are and how the library can provide that assistance. I know that this was a follow-up question 10 years ago, and I remembered that. I got a great team that reminded me of this, and so we put this back in here to show you the breakout by community. Obviously, there's a component of it that's driven by population. Let's see. As I mentioned, we did do a survey, and periodically we do that for the library for the blind customers. And 88% recommended or rated the service as excellent, and the remaining 12%, I'm pleased to say, rated it as good. So we didn't have anybody that rated it as fair or poor. The customer comments, I know you had some of the slides or the slide deck in advance, and I won't read these to you, but I will just tell you, and relaying this from Anne, that people find this to be a lifeline. We get so many compliments from people thanking us for being there, that again, it's a lifeline. So often we hear from family members that it has just really made a difference in their loved one's life having the library service there. Our finances, so this will give you a breakdown of how the contract has increased over the years. We put about a 3% inflation factor in there. The other provision is that we do get state aid, and so anything in excess of $40,000 is deducted from the contract to the county, and were state aid to be reduced, then the county would make that up. It just helps us have a predictable source of revenue in offering this service. And at 2012, there were startup costs. That was when we relocated the equipment and the shelving and everything from the county library and brought it here. The state aid, as you can see, has been pretty consistent over the years. In terms of this, from your, I tried to put myself in your shoes. This is a turnkey, no maintenance contract for you. We provide all of the reports, the audit, everything else on an annual basis. And again, we handle all the state aid reports. For 2021, the combined total is $164,000. So as you can see, about a quarter of that comes from the state. So that's money that's brought into Macomb County, if you will. And then the rest is coming from you as the county to provide the rest of it. And looking at our expenditures, this is in thousands of dollars. Obviously, like most entities, the highest portion is salaries and wages. And then you can move on down the line in terms of other expenditures. The talking books come from the National Library Service, so there is no charge for those. The large type books that I mentioned before are an optional service, but a very valuable one that we provide as a supplemental service. And then the bottom there, as you can see, is overhead, and that is comprises our 600 square feet of prominent space here on the first floor of the main library, utilities, voice data, professional services, janitorial, everything else. And the thing I do want to point out is it is a net expense. The priority to me is that we offer high quality service, that I have well-trained staff. So as you may have noted, there's professional development in there. And so if we have to spend another $500 on a flight or travel to the one training event that we have a year, then that comes out of the net bottom line expense, which is administrative overhead. I'd rather put the money there. And that said, so the gamble part is on the Clinton Macomb Public Library if I guess wrong on the budgeting going forward. So that's just a pie chart that represents that. We do, I'll mention, have a technology trainer contract, which is great. We have somebody who has a visual impairment working with our customers so that that person understands what it's like to go through and experience vision loss, and then in turn is the trainer and can help out with new devices and some of our discussion groups, and that's been very successful for us. I am a fiscal conservative, and Camille will back me up on that. I have an MBA. I got that before I got my library science master's degree from U of M. So I run a tight shop, and that applies to the Library for the Blind contract as well. I have no full-time employees. As I mentioned, Ann Mandel is on the line, and she was an amazing employee for the county when it was back at the county library building and run directly by the county. She has come here, and she has just been a saving grace for us. The customers love her. They still love her. They know Ann. She's got the patience of a saint, and this is her passion in serving this population. I have another, Barb Shipman is also on board. And they are fantastic employees, and they just are very well respected and held in such high esteem by our customers. We have no legacy costs. We have a 5% that we contribute towards pension, that there's no health care in retirement. And so this shows you the cost per customer. Coming from the county directly is about $150, and then you add that 25% of the state aid that comes to us, so it's about $200 a year to serve these customers. In terms of this being a partnership, as I mentioned early on, we are the Clinton Macomb Public Library. So that is the taxpayers of Clinton Township, excluding the Mount Clemens School District and Macomb Township. We are a district library, a voluntary partnership, example of consolidated local government. And that has allowed us to be efficient with administration. So those of you that know the main library here, it's all based out of this building. And then we have the 2 branch buildings. I'll put a plug in for Macomb Township because that's the northern part of our service district. So we've got a spectacular branch that will open up there on March 19th. But I think it just represents the quality of library service that our taxpayers here expect. And it, again, continues on with the Library for the Blind. 90% of our revenues are derived from local property taxes. So that's why, in terms of this being a county-wide service, why we need to ask that it be funded in part by the county. I think, again, from your standpoint, there's so much talk of equity, inclusion, and access. Nowadays, libraries have been talking about that for 100 years or more. And this to me is a great way for you to demonstrate your commitment to that part of our community in Macomb County, that this is a welcoming place where you understand that everyone is differently abled and you can find ways to help people that need that extra funding or effort for equity. As I've already talked about the hard sell in terms of being fiscally accountable, I think that you can feel rest assured that your money is put to good use, it is put to the purpose intended, and has great results from that. Again, we're proud here to demonstrate our commitment to equity, inclusion, and access. So as I mentioned, this is an honor and a privilege for us to be able to offer on your behalf. And again, it helps us become continuously aware and mindful that everyone is able differently and that we need to offer that great level of service to everyone in the community here and beyond. So the proposal back to you is for another 10-year contract. This has worked well. It's nice to stop and pause and evaluate to see how things are going. It's a privilege to get to talk to you. You can hear from me once a year if you want. It's in the contract, but I think I went 1 year and went another year, and then they kind of said, we've heard enough from you. It is a good news story. It is good information, but anytime you want, and it doesn't have to be once a year, or if you're in the neighborhood and you want to drop in and have a tour of the facility here. Most of our work is done by sending things to people at their homes, but we do have the equipment here, and we're always delighted to provide you with a tour and others to build awareness. We'll be asking for a change to the name of the service if you wish to continue the contract. And some provisions don't apply, such as in transferring the assets when the move occurred. And so, as we did last time, if this is of interest to you, we would be pleased to provide you with the initial draft of the contract for your consideration. The proposed contract amount is basically just a 3% increase. Again, if costs go up faster than that, then I end up getting in trouble with my bosses here. And at the same time, I did want it to remain efficient. And so that's what is being proposed and how that would look. And aside from that, again, I thank you so much for the partnership. It's been my pleasure. And if you wish to ask any questions, I would be pleased to try to answer them. And I might end up having to ask Anne because she is, on the ground every day with the work. But however you need an answer, I will get it to you one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry. Appreciate it. We do have a couple of commissioners with questions. Chairman Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry, for coming in. As a life member of the Washington Lions Club, supporting visually and handicapped individuals such as you, we really appreciate the work that your library does. What would happen if the county did not renew our contract? What would happen to the services should the county decide not to renew the contract?
So if it's not renewed, then my library cannot underwrite that. So it would need to be dissolved in terms of any local presence. The optional services like large print books, the programs for people, all of that sort of thing would be considered extra services. So that would go away, and then users would be served out of the Lansing office for getting signed up for the talking book cartridges and the Bard download.
Yeah, that's something that I don't support. The services provided, valuable services, those to a select few. It's something that's certainly necessary, something that I've long supported being on the board, and I support the contract renewal when it's brought forward. So I encourage you to bring forward the language, and we'll consider the language in detail and hopefully approve that contract going forward. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next up, we have Vice Chair Song.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very nice to meet you in these small boxes. I want to also say thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. We really appreciate that. And thank you for the presentation. I saw that you guys serve a lot of my residents in Warren, so that's really wonderful. My question is, have you sought any other funding outside of the county and the state? And is the library set up as a nonprofit? What is the status of that? And would you be able to, or have you guys sought out grants related to what you are doing? Because I believe in, equity and inclusion too, and you mentioned all those things, so it's great.
Yeah, so first of all, the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped is part of CMPL as a fiscal entity. So we are a Michigan municipal corporation. In terms of other funding, we actually get a couple of thousand a year from people as memorial gifts and tributes. We have one Oakland County resident who gives us $1,000 a year pretty much. And when we get that kind of funding, then we look at what is beyond the core service that we can offer. Sometimes it's those magnification pieces of equipment. We have purchased those cartridges that we can then send out to people so they can keep them and we don't have to worry about getting them back. We bought a brailer that is something that people can print out, like a printer that prints in Braille. We apply for grants here and there. Megan actually just submitted one to the Library of Michigan for access so that we might get a set of equipment that could be checked out in senior living complexes around the county to help build awareness of the technology available and the service that we offer.
That's great. So the budget from the county and the state, then it just covers those core services, everything that you presented today.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, great. I would encourage you to continue to seek funding and even to create partnerships with residents like that Oakland County resident to make annual donations or even monthly. I think that would be great in order to grow your services. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Up next, Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Good presentation. I wasn't aware of the service that you had available, so I have some acquaintances that I'm going to let them know about that. You mentioned that your employees, you have no full-time employees, and you're also part of the overall library, Clinton Macomb Library. Are they employees of the library and you use them part-time, or are they only used part-time and they have no other job in the library other than that?
Thank you for your question. They are employees of the library. So they are, two of them are 29 hours a week, and they are, they're trained like all of the other CMPL staff members. They attend our in-service day. They're really part of our team. They'd be hard to distinguish other than the fact that the funding for their positions comes through the contract. I have Megan Mott, who is the outreach manager that oversees that, and then Amy Young oversees adult services. So there is administrative oversight to help out. Although I'll say Ann is very low maintenance. But that said, yeah, they're part of the CMPL team.
Okay, so for the part-time employees that are 29 hours, the library for the blind uses the whole 29 hours. The main library function doesn't use any of that time.
No, their work is completely dedicated to the library for the blind. Where we get into the overhead, which again I'm very generous on, it's when my other staff members in that department field questions and help answer inquiries about the service. So we actually just sort of pick that up in kind. And again, it makes us better staff and we're better trained because we're aware of the service. Because Ann and Barb aren't, can't be here every hour that we're open, but we do try to at least take calls and talk to people and answer questions at any time that we're open 72 hours a week, 7 days a week.
And how are you doing for space in the library? Are you bursting at the seams, or you have a little growth space, or?
You'd think with 84,000 square feet, you'd have plenty, but for the library, for the blind services, it's an ideal space. It's not far from the front. We have a workroom that's in the back. Again, it was intended to be the library store, and that's how it functioned originally. So it's great. We have plenty of space for what we're offering.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Nard?
Thank you, Chair Farrington. Larry, I really enjoyed your presentation, and I've worked with, when I was in Flint, I worked with the School of the Blind there with some children. So I kind of, knew the ins and outs. They did Braille and things like that. What I was wondering, did you guys factor in growth, or how has your growth been like, each year?
Yeah, I mean, our growth, it's been pretty constant when you look at those statistics. It's between 800 and 900 people. And, that's always frustrating because this system is one of tremendous growth if you look at the overall library system. But it's tough. It's really tough to bring in and build awareness of the service. It's a perpetual marketing thing. And then we're often catching people once they have macular degeneration. They haven't had vision challenges, and then we're catching them at kind of I hate to say it, but the end of life. So, yeah, it's a challenge.
Okay, because I would be willing, if you've got some flyers or something. I know a few ophthalmologists, and when they have their clients go, they ask about that. I would be willing to, take flyers around and to let the residents here in Warren, where I am, know about your service. I know that's probably necessary, and even some of the schools. I would be, I know of some children that would need that service so that we can keep them engaged.
Yeah, the kids in the school would generally go through the Macomb ISD, and then we work with their consultants to sort of bridge them over to the services that we can extend to them. But that's fantastic. I'd be happy to get some. I mean, I'll forward it so all of you as commissioners. I mean, you're the people that everyone knows in the community, and you might think of organizations or other entities. By all means, the word of mouth referrals are one of our biggest sources of getting people connected to the service. So thank you for that offer.
Yes, definitely. My daughter works with the doctor. They go in home and do in-home visits. So she had a question about that before, and it's just ironic that you came up today. So I will let her and the doctor know that they can, the person wanted to know about where they could go and read books and do things. So I will pass that along. Thank you so much.
Well, we'll have a competition between you. How's that? I have a great CMPL mug for you, or you can get your name printed out on our brailer. It's pretty awesome, actually.
Wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Larry. Great to see you again. Great presentation, spot on. I just was recalling actually 10 years ago when this was brought to us, this partnership opportunity, and it's been a great partnership. I just want to share that with my fellow commissioners here. I remember the groundbreaking of this when it was moved. It was great community involvement there. and I absolutely will be supporting it again. Your leadership, Larry, has been fabulous, along with your team. And just want to say thanks for the plug for Macomb Township. And we're very, very excited about the North Branch and the new library that is almost done. So welcome all the commissioners to that groundbreaking too. So thank you, Larry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. I was going to say I was going to compete in that contest as well with a nephew and niece that provide occupational blind services, but they're in upstate New York, so can't help you. Commissioner Matuzak.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I have certainly used this services with elderly relatives, and in my condo building, at least once or twice a week, I see the blue cases sitting in the mailbox. So I know a couple of my neighbors use the services as well. I just have a question. Where is this contract in our, and it may not be your question, but where is this, the amount for, where's the budget item? Like what department does it live in? I don't know who knows the answer to that question. In the county budget.
Yeah, Commissioner Matuzak.
Yep, Steve.
Yeah, this is Steve Schmigel. Much like the AAA 1B contract, it is in the non-departmental appropriations budget in the general fund.
Thank you. And while I'm thank you, Steve. And while I'm here, I want to mention that I think Camille is on the phone somewhere here. There you are. She is currently the president of the library, which is a great role. And I just want to mention that she actually just retired from the county after 36 years of service to us all. So I think it's fabulous that she could be with us today, and we could recognize her great work for the county, but also recognize her as the president of the library, which is fabulous. And I am very much looking forward to the opening of the new branch. And thank you for your earlier invitation to come and see it. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Camille, fantastic. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought I got a call from the moon when Steve took that call. Chairman Brown, second time.
I'll pass.
Commissioner Van Sickle for the second time.
Thank you, Chair. I want to compliment Commissioner Nard for thinking out of the box and asking about the flyers to be distributed, which made me think, I may be speaking out of turn, but does the county website advertise this service? And if it doesn't, why not? Maybe we can speak with JCO or whoever is in charge of that and get this listed as a county service on the website.
Very good. Appreciate the comment and the suggestion, Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair.
Seeing no other questions for the presenter, we have a motion on the floor to receive and file. Mike, if you can put up the vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mike. And Larry, you and your team, thank you very much for everything you do. As you can see by the comments by the commissioners, we all have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciate the services provided to this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Again, September 19th, 2 p.m. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We're going to move on to agenda item department recommendations, agenda item 7A. I'd like to ask for a motion to recommend to full board.
Motion by Wallace.
Second, Zinner.
Motion made by Wallace, supported by Zinner. This is the county resolution for the Department of Roads. Director Brian Santo, if you can speak upon this.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Farrington and Commissioners. This is a couple resolutions, and I know we touched on this subject of warranties, I believe last or a couple meetings ago. This is two resolutions, one as far as adopting a local pavement warranty program and another resolution to implement a local pavement warranty program. This was done in conjunction with state requirements to the locals, working with the County Road Association, in particular our previous county highway engineer, who is no longer here. He retired a short time ago. He was on the board with this warranty program, trying to put it together with adjacent or neighboring counties. This hasn't precluded us or excluded us from requiring warranties. And just to give an example, and I know we talked, like I said, on this subject, the current 23-mile road project that we have in Macomb Township from North Avenue to Card does have this warranty in the language of the proposal. That is a state contract project. It does have federal monies involved. So that does have this language of the warranty requirement, as will the subsequent project on 23 Mile heading to the west from Card to Heidenreich. So this, unfortunately, was not presented earlier with the previous county highway engineer forwarding it, but it is requested that these two resolutions be adopted for the warranty program moving forward. Typically, our local projects that are not federally funded do not ever meet the threshold of $2 million of just concrete or bituminous pavement items. And that is just the structure of either the HMA or concrete surface, and then the underlying base or sub-base directly beneath that. Everything else that's a cost outside of the pavement structure would not apply to the $2 million threshold that's mentioned in these warranty programs. So seeking approval to approve both resolutions of these warranty programs.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate the explanation. I see no speakers. So having a motion on the floor, Mike, if you can put the vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate that. We're going to move on to item 7B. This is the contract with Ciparoni Contracting 2021 Pavement Preservation Program. If I can have a motion to recommend this to the full board.
Motion by Haw.
Support Van Sickle.
Motion by Haw, support by Van Sickle. Brian, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. This is accepting or asking for approval of contract to Ciparoni Contracting, which is for our 2021 concrete pavement preservation program. It's a program that we do annually. We do a HMA program and we do a concrete program. Program money's in to cover the entire county as far as various areas. And this is an amount that was bid at $2,284,288.09. Once again, to Ciparoni Contracting. So seeking approval of this contract. It is a local program, so it would be 100% Department of Roads funding.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Vice Chair Song.
Thank you, Chair. Brian, for the $2 million 2021 contract, how long is that contract? Is it just for the next 6 months? Because we're midway through 2021.
It would be for this construction season, Commissioner. We have various items in areas located as far as this program for concrete pavement repair. So the contractor, chooses what locations they want to start first and where they want to end. But this would be, throughout the summer, this contract would be going on and would be ended or completed by year's end, well before that.
So the contractor chooses where they want to start? And why do they get to make that decision as opposed to you or the department?
The functionality is given to the contractors to best suit their operations. So depending on where they're located, or if they have other jobs in the area, they might start in a location and then go from there. So we don't dictate normally where these locations should be started or stopped throughout that program. So that is not something that we confine to the contractor, because in our minds, that opens up the availability of less cost if it's more functional for them to go to certain areas first versus us directing them. You need to go through 1 through 20 locations, and this is the order that you need to do it.
Okay, last question. You mentioned this was bid out. How many other contractors and how did you decide on this one?
It's a typical bid outlay, and there were 3 contractors that actually bid on this project. Ciparoni, Great Lakes Contracting, and Florence Cement, with Ciparoni coming in actually under the engineer's estimate by over 25% under.
All right, thank you so much, Brian, and thank you, Chair.
You're very welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you. Actually, that brings a couple of follow-up questions I have, Brian. I guess one is, if we're having the contractor dictate what's being done, when it's being done, I would imagine we'd have some issues on residents complaining that their area might not be served as well as another area. And you just, I don't know where Ciparoni is located, but for them, it'd be much cheaper to service the community that's closest logistically to their headquarters than it would be someone in a more disparate part of the community. So I understand the cost section, but they make more money by traveling less, not necessarily by serving the community better. So I guess I'm with Commissioner Song on that. Have you had pushback from anyone on that in the past?
No, we haven't, and I don't know if I'm getting the right question or the right answer to you. So from our program here, we have various locations that our program requires for the program, the concrete pavement repair. So by the end of the contract, I mean, all areas will be completed.
Okay.
It's just where they choose to start, whether it's, Washington Township or Shelby or East Point or whatever, that is something that we don't dictate to them. So functionality of where they start and where they end, as long as they complete all the locations that we put on the contract as far as requirements, we just assure that they complete all those areas by the time that they should with the contract end date or completion date.
No, that makes total sense. I misunderstood based on the first answer. Okay. And a second question I have is the timing. I'm sitting here and I don't know what it is outside, 80, 85 degrees. People have been working on roads for, a month, 2 months now already. Why are we so late to fixing the roads when they could have been working on this previously?
Our typical program actually is about this time frame for the concrete and HMA. This program doesn't take the entirety of the summer from April to November to complete. So we assure that we get enough input from the communities as well as our maintenance superintendents and our maintenance divisions as far as locations that we see best fit to go to and repair that would benefit our needs. We look at locations that we have to go back to time and time again with coal patch and do repairs during the winter, or continued allocations of funding on our end to do the simple pothole fills and stuff like that. So that's why it's our program. We get input, but we determine the locations for our program that we set forth. So,
sorry to interrupt. You mean partially because you got to wait until the frost breaks to figure out where the biggest problems are and then go through the contractual process?
I mean, that's part of it as far as the evaluation, knowing what areas are kind of hot spots that might have deteriorated from the previous winter. So this isn't a challenge to get completed by year's end.
Right, but the sooner is always the better for our drivers. So.
Correct, for sure.
Yeah. Commissioner Van Sickle has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Brian, I was curious, pavement preservation program and pothole patching was mentioned. What else do they do to preserve pavement? Just real high level.
Well,
are they spraying chemicals on it, or is there some other processes other than patching holes?
No, the two programs that we have on an annual basis are the pavement preservation program for concrete and the pavement preservation program for HMA or hot mix asphalt. Those are programs that we go out and evaluate end of year, during the winter and spring to determine areas, like I said, that have gotten to a point that we're spending more money going back to them and fixing with our maintenance crews. So we go and fix them on a more temporary basis with these programs to either fix it with a concrete patch or with an overlay of asphalt in certain locations that are deemed necessary as far as evaluation. So no, these are programs that we have other than our, bigger projects, our mill and fill projects that are longer duration. Those are probably 8 to 10 years or more as far as kind of a repair or fix than these are. We do concrete patching. Who's to say that adjacent pavement next to the patches that we do, it doesn't fall apart, in 3 to 5 years or 3 to 7 years or something like that. That's always, nobody has a crystal ball, but we do the best we can to work with those areas that are deemed emergency or high priority on an annual basis that we evaluate.
Okay, so there's patching, there's asphalt layer covering and whatever. Is it your department that determines which process is going to be used at each location?
It really depends on the type of pavement that we're looking at. Asphalt road would be obviously part of the asphalt HMA program. If it's a totally concrete roadway, then we would do patching. And sometimes that rolls into primary roads that are concrete, so we would do concrete patching, or some of the roads that are primary are asphalt surface. So we would do an asphalt that would be part of the HMA program. So it truly depends on the type of roadway that it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Zinner has a question.
I just want to say a quick comment with Mr. Santo when he was talking about, somebody brought up time period. A constituent had a complaint about a road, brand new road that she had to pay for, and there was a crevice in the middle. And so I checked it. It had been almost a year, and my daughter has a friend who works for the roads, not in the county. And I said, "Oh, you're over for dinner? Great, come here. Go look at a road for me." About a month or 5, 6 weeks later, and I walked over there. I walked that whole road, and as we're driving over, I'm going, "Wait a minute, with this road, there was no more problem." 6 weeks later, and we got to the road problem area. I go, "There's nothing wrong here." He said, he says almost a year. And it was just perfect. And he said the timing worked it out. The weather worked it out. Enough cars drove over it. So the time period, there's a reason for that time period to wait. Just like it's supposed to.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
I'm not from Michigan, so you guys with your asphalt, I laugh every time I hear that word. And Brian, you're forgetting your sunscreen again. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, I think, Commissioner. And we also go to Kmart's and Sears and Targets. Seeing no other questions, we have a motion on the floor. Mike, if you can bring up the vote.
Kmart's are closed, though. Which one are you going to?
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. Now we're on to item 7C. This is the contract with JV Contracting 2021 longitudinal pavement marking project. I'd like to have a motion to recommend this to the full board.
Motion by Haw.
Support Kleinfeld.
Motion by Hall, support by Kleinfeld. Brian, any brief comments?
Yes, this is seeking approval for a county program contract with JV Contracting. This was bid out. We had 2 bidders, JV and PK Contracting, and this is for areas throughout the county as far as the longitudinal lines, which would be the center skip solids in the adjacent edge lines that run longitudinally along the various roadways in Macomb County. This is an annual program that we do in various locations to touch up those pavement markings that are necessary. So seeking approval in the amount of $529,937 to JV Contracting.
Thank you very much, Brian. I don't see any speakers. So, Mike, if you can put up the vote. We have a motion on the floor.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next item is 7D, contract with PK Contracting. This is for the pavement marking project. I'd like a motion to recommend to the full board.
Moved by Romano.
Moved by Romano, support.
Second.
Support by Zinner. Brian, any brief comments on item 7D?
Yes, this is very similar to the longitudinal pavement marking program that we have every year. This is deals with the special markings, which crosswalks, stop bars, arrows onlys. The special markings outside of the longitudinal lines, we have two separate because it takes two separate operations to get those things completed. So this was advertised and bid, and obviously PK Contracting was the low bidder. So seeking approval to award the contract to them in the amount of $289,841.
Excellent. I see any commissioners' questions. Seeing none, Mike, if you can put it up for a vote.
Wallace votes yes.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. Moving on to item 7E, contract with Springline Excavating, 2021 subdivision reconstruction program. I'd like to have a motion to recommend to the full board.
Motion by Romano.
Motion by Romano, support.
Haw.
Support by Haw. Brian, brief comments on E.
Yes, Commissioners, as was seen from the previous cost shares that we had with the various communities that are involved with our sub-reconstruct program, we bid that program out and seeking approval of the actual contract to the low bidder, Springline Excavating, in the amount of $2,480,218.20 to complete that program that we have on an annual basis. So seeking approval of awarding that contract to Springline.
Thank you very much, Brian. Seeing no questions from commissioners. Oh, yep. Put up for a vote. Thank you, Mike.
Wallace votes yes.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Mike. I think as commissioners, we get paid by the number of votes we do, so I appreciate this. Next item is 7F, a contract with MDOT, removal replacement of 22-mile road bridge over salt slang road drain. I'd like to have a motion to recommend to full board.
Moved by Romano.
It's moved by Romano, supported by Matusek. Thank you very much. Matusek, sorry. Brian, if you have a couple of brief comments.
Yes, this is a standard MDOT contract for the completion of the project, removal and replacement of the 22-mile road bridge over the Salt Slang Galoti Drain. This is mostly federally and state funded, as can be seen by the cost breakdown, with the county share being $50,725. So seeking approval of this MDOT contract.
How much did you say the county cost was?
$50,725.
I thought I heard something different. Commissioner Hall has a question.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Brian. How long is this going to take to complete? Do you know?
I can take a look and see what the completion date of this is. I don't think it's an extremely long process. It won't be, November or anything, but I can definitely get you what the completion date. I don't think it's in the paperwork that I have in front of me.
Yep.
But I can surely get you a completion date.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Appreciate that. If you can get that out to the full commission, that'd be appreciated. Seeing no other questions,
sure.
We have a motion on the floor. If we can have a vote, Mike.
Wallace votes yes.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much. The next is 7G. We have a contract MDOT again resurface DeQuinder Road from Maple Lane Avenue to 10 Mile Road. I'd like to have a motion to recommend to the full board.
Motion by Nard.
Support Wallace.
Motion by Nard, support by Wallace. Brian, any comments?
Yes, this is seeking approval of MDOT contract to resurface DeQuinder Road from Maple Lane Avenue to 10 Mile Road. This is a project that was initiated by Ashley Capital, which has a development on the west side of DeQuinder at the old racetrack. They requested and were granted traffic economic development funds to move forward with widening the entire stretch from basically 10 Mile to the south, which basically goes to Stevens. So they are putting in the match money for that traffic economic development fund. We did see a benefit piggybacking on top of that project, as well as in conjunction with Oakland County. The original design was to widen to 5 lanes. It's currently a 4-lane pavement in between 10 Mile and Oak Grove, which is north of Stevens. So we partnered with Oakland to each put in up to $200,000 of milling and paving the existing pavement that's currently there. So the original project with Springline was to just take the existing pavement, maybe mill in 3 or 4 feet to that, and then widen the additional lane on each side of the roadway, east and west side. In order to do it appropriately, and I think with a better fix and a more long-term fix, and it's a benefit for both Oakland and Wayne, being that's a border road, we coordinated with Oakland, and they agreed to, in addition to us, put in up to $200,000 each to mill and pave the existing surface to make it a uniform new surface all the way across from basically 10 Mile down to north of Stevens here. So seeking approval of this contract, MDOT contract, for the resurfacing of DeQuinder Road from Maple Lane to 10 Mile Road.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate the insight. Don't see any speakers. Yep. So, Mike, if you can put up for a vote. Thank you.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. We're going to move on to 7H, cost share agreement, Macomb Township reconstruction widening of 23 Mile Road from Card Road to Heidenreich. I'd like to have a motion to recommend to the full board.
Motion by Sabatini.
Motion by Song and support by Sabatini, I believe.
Sorry, can I make a motion to move H through O?
Actually, I was going to do I through O because they're all limestone.
Okay, motion to make, just do H then.
Yep. Thank you very much. Motion by Song and support by, I forget who it was now. 17. Yep. So, Brian, if you can speak on this one real quick.
Yes, this is a typical cost share agreement. It would be for the reconstruction and widening of 23 Mile Road in Macomb Township from Card to Heidenreich. The agreement is to do the next section of roadway heading to the west to complete the 5-lane section that will eventually connect to Romeo Plank and make that a 5-lane cross section, basically all the way across on 23 Mile Road. So basically a typical cost share agreement that we would have with Macomb Township with the breakdown as shown. We do have federal funds expected in the amount of just under $7 million with about $3.5 million of cost share participation, which would be split equally between us and Macomb Township. So seeking approval of that cost share agreement.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Brian. Commissioner Hall has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a comment. I'm glad to see out of all these road projects that we are approving, there's at least one south of Hall Road. So thank you for that. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Seeing no other questions, Mike, if you can put this up for a vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. At this time, I'd like to combine items 7I through 7O. They're all part of the limestone program up in the northern areas. If I can have a motion to recommend to the full board.
I'll support Commissioner Song's motion.
Long makes the motion, supported by Haw. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, this is once again an annual program that we have through the road department. It is a outreach to the 7 northern communities that have the majority of the aggregate roadways surfaces throughout their communities. We offer up 3 miles of roadway to limestone, which this year each of the 7 communities opted to take advantage of all 3 miles. Basically, it's a program where we require that the communities, the townships pay for a small percentage of the actual limestone cost, 10% of that, and we pay for the remaining cost of the material and the actual placement, grading and placement within those communities. This has worked very well over the past years in those communities, like I said, that don't have as many hard surfaced roadways. As Commissioner Brown can appreciate as far as this program moving forward and the benefit to those northern communities. So seeking approval for those cost shares with each community involved.
Thank you very much, Brian. I see no speakers, so we have a motion on the floor. Combined I through O. Mike, if you can put up the vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Excellent. Final one, we have 7P. This is the revised cost share agreement, Macomb Township 25-mile and Romeo Plank Roundabout. If I can have a motion to recommend to the full board.
Motion by Sabatini.
Second, Zinner.
Motion by Sabatini, supported by Zinner. Brian?
Yes, Commissioners, this was a cost share that had previously been presented and approved at a previous Board of Commissioner meeting. However, with discussion with the township, the original design and intent of the roundabout, which we built the roundabout at the easterly leg of 25 and Romeo Plank a few years back, and the intent was to build another roundabout for the westerly leg of the 25-mile and roundabout intersection. We were in the process of designing that, which we do hire that out as far as the concept of the roundabout configuration, and then we incorporate that design into the approaches and drainage and everything else. So in the interim of doing that, the request from the township came through that, hey, we want to take a look at a priority of extending Garfield basically from 21-mile road all the way to 25-mile road as far as a new roadway, new north-south roadway, which would be integral to their community and, to tell you the truth, integral to north-south travel throughout the entire county. So we had to go back and take a look at reevaluating this, getting an upsized roundabout to accommodate the future expansion of Garfield to the north. So there were additional costs, and then the estimate obviously went up as a result of needing some additional sizing for that roundabout. So this is just an adjustment. Obviously, Macomb Township is on board with this as far as a revised cost share in moving this forward. So once again, this is presented as a revised to reflect the current costs in need as far as funding for this project moving forward. So seeking approval of that cost share.
Thank you very much, Brian. Seeing no questions from commissioners, Mike, if you can put up the vote. Thank you.
That motion passes 12-0.
Brian, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care, Commissioners.
Yep. And on to item number 8, correspondence. We do have something from the Department of Roads. If I can have a motion to receive and file.
Moved by Romano.
Support Wallace.
Moved by Romano, support by Wallace. Any discussion? Mike, if you can put up the vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. We're on to new business. Agenda item number 9. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. I was hoping that Chair Brown would be here right now. In light of, a while back, I brought up that we should have a committee made up of a few commissioners on both sides of the aisle to do interviews for the chief of staff position. There were at least 3 commissioners at that meeting that supported me in that. There were no commissioners that were opposed to it. And then Chair Brown just announced he's the chair, so he'll be doing it. I brought up that there is nowhere in writing in our bylaws that give the chair, that say that that's the chair's authority. In light of the recent events that have put our department in a pretty bad situation as far as I'm concerned, I think it's more important than ever that the chief of staff position be somebody that we all feel that we can work with and are comfortable with, and it isn't somebody handpicked or that got a phone call saying, hey, want a job. I just doubling down on that. I would like it to be placed on the next full board meeting next week to have a discussion about that. I did ask like a month ago to have it placed on an agenda, and that didn't happen. But if I could get support for that, I would like that, because I don't think that these I don't think these departures are unrelated to each other, and I don't think everybody understands how much institutional knowledge we're losing. But I think it's really important that this is a collective decision for that chief of staff position. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very
Chair,
much.
this is Commissioner Romano, if I may.
Sure. Go ahead, Commissioner Romano.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, I agree with you 100%. I don't think that decision should be made solely by the chair. We all have to interact with the chief of staff, and I agree with you in saying that we have people available now that are very, very knowledgeable and can move in that position smoothly, seamlessly. And I encourage our board chair to reconsider he himself making that appointment, and I would support any motion that you would want to make regarding having so many commissioners take a look at at who would be applying for chief of staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. This isn't going to be a shoot the messenger, but I just got a text from Chairman Brown that says if questions are raised concerning staffing, you can report the chairman has been working with HR to fill the vacancies, and though short-staffed temporarily, board operations will continue without a noticeable difference. So I'm just reading the message. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Wallace.
I just wanted to note that I completely agree with Commissioner Kleinfeld, and I would love to see that on one of our agendas so that we can discuss and actually vote on it. I think that it's very important that more than one person on our board is involved in the hiring of our staff. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Yep, so noted. Thank you. Commissioner Matuzak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am also in agreement with the positions that have been stated. I think this is a collective activity as opposed to a single activity. But I guess I'm having a procedural question. Commissioner Kleinfeld talked about having a motion. Commissioner Romano talked about having how does something get on an agenda? I mean, we bring things up under new business as sort of general information or discussing. Commissioner Kleinfeld asked that this be put on an agenda. It wasn't put on an agenda. What is the procedure for getting something on an agenda? Because it doesn't seem to be very consistent.
Okay, I'll try to answer, and those that are more experienced, please rebut whatever I say if I'm incorrect. My understanding is the chair of any committee sets the agenda, but if there is, I think it's a 2/3 vote, they can overrule the chair and get it on the agenda. But for the more experienced ones, is that accurate?
Well, then let me ask a question. Some of us are not chairs of committees. How do we get something on?
You talk to the chair to ask to have it be put on.
All right.
But there is something in the rules that can be overridden if the chair does not wish to do it. I think it's a supermajority. I'm not sure about that.
All right. And then how does one figure out which chair, like this sort of request to put something on an agenda? I'm not clear what ones of our committees this would go under.
I believe you have the right to do it under any committee, but I'm going to defer right now to Commissioner Kleinfeld, who seems to be very good with the rules.
So it would normally probably go through government operations, but I was just sitting here trying to pull up the bylaws we were working on, but apparently I have 50 million emails that have the word bylaws in them. I asked for next full board because we don't have a bunch of committee meetings next week, and if it doesn't go through government ops, that would be an appropriate place. The question is, and I do believe you may be right that a majority can put something on the agenda, but the item to vote on it has to be on an agenda, right? So how do I get it on the agenda to cast that vote? Therein lies the problem with that. So I wanted to go back, and I just went through the bylaws, but I was thinking, I just can't remember if a number of commissioners can make a request, and I'm not getting it up immediately. But we have right now, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of us, and I am making a formal request that this be placed on the agenda of the full board meeting next week for a discussion and possible action. So we have 4 of us requesting, and if we have to put it on there to cast a vote for the discussion, I'm more than happy for that as well.
I actually have them right in front of me if you can give me just a moment. Or if another commissioner finds it before me.
While you're looking, I will also express my support for you, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Committee Chair Farrington, this is
Yeah,
Michael,
I
just for
actually
the purposes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just for the purposes of the system, I just want to clarify, I don't know if you've recognized a motion by Commissioner Kleinfeld to add this item to the upcoming full board, or if this is just for discussion. If you could just clarify that with Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Point of order. Point of order. It's just for discussion. You can't make a motion under new business.
Correct. And just reading also what you're asking, I found it under Rule 15B2. An item that has not been referred for consideration from a committee meeting may be added to an agenda for consideration at the full board meeting upon a 2/3 vote of the commissioners serving. An item may be added to a committee agenda at the time of the committee is considering adopting the agenda upon a majority vote of members of that committee.
So when we vote to approve the agenda next Thursday, there would have to be an amendment made, and that amendment would have to pass by 2/3.
Actually, you just got to make a motion. Yes, you're right. Yep. No, if you do it at the time of adopting the agenda, it's a majority vote. For the full board, 2/3.
Or you can request the chairman put it on the agenda.
Yeah. No, that's the first thing to do.
Right.
Well, yes. Well, I technically wasn't making a motion here. I was making a formal request, and the reason I said formal is because I already requested it be put on an agenda, and that didn't happen when I requested it before.
Yeah.
So I do want him to be made aware, obviously, that the request has been made.
Very good. Thank you very much, commissioners, on that.
We'll let Jeff tell him.
Commissioner Matuzak.
I already spoke. I was the one that started that discussion by asking, how do we do something?
Commissioner Zinner.
I have a question. Probably Veronica is the one who can answer it. I don't know who all can answer it. Maybe Commissioner Sabatini. Originally, Chair Brown said that previously, in previous chairs before were the ones who made the decision. That was what I believe he said.
That is correct.
And that's why he was going to make the decision. Is that true?
Yes. The position of chief of staff had never come up since the change of county government to an executive form of government, which prior to that, the chair of the board ran the day-to-day operations of the whole county. So that changed. Other positions had been filled by the chair, but there had never been an opening in the chief of staff position. So the chief of staff now, I think, works for the full board. I don't know if they worked primarily for the chair before the change in government, but the chair's role was diminished dramatically, and there isn't anything in writing that has that. And I just think for the sake of us all being able to work together and feel good about it, I think it's important.
I just wanted to make sure that was true and that he hadn't just pulled that out of a hat somewhere. He didn't just dream that up. So that was a fact in history. And that's where he was coming from. That's where he was coming from.
Oh, and also, may I clarify, the chief of staff position actually didn't exist. That was an administrative assistant at that time to the chair. There was no chief of staff position before. We created that probably 6 years ago. I don't know if Joe Sabatini was on when we created that, but we created that a few years back.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Sabatini. So just to clarify, yes, we did reorganize the department, and I'm going back on memory here, but Commissioner Kleinfeld is correct. Through that changeover, the chief of staff position, I believe, was created at that time. I don't remember exactly, but it may have been after that during the reorganization and when we went to an executive form of government. But Commissioner Zinner, you are correct. Previously, the chair with vacancies and positions in our board office has traditionally handled those vacancies.
So, and then the chairman would obviously work closer with that person. That person, the chair would work closest with that person, correct? I would imagine.
Correct. The issue is that the rules are ambiguous as far as the process. So that's why Commissioner Kleinfeld's making the motion, or wants it to be on the agenda for a motion.
So unless you're a new commissioner calling often, as some of us did, and we get now any number of people, we don't call that often anymore. But so from the point of view of the person, if Julie or Antoinette or someone would be the chairman, the person you would work with the most, I would think I want to be the one most in control of that versus other people making the choice for me if it was me. But I'm not saying that you all don't have another point of view. Thank you very much for explaining.
Thank you. And we do have Commissioner Van Sickle, but we can hash this out when and if it actually gets on agenda. So Commissioner Van Sickle.
I had a couple things. Veronica, were you weren't suggesting that we have you were suggesting we have multiple people involved in the interviewing process. But you were not suggesting we actually have the interviews in a public meeting online, were you?
That's correct. I was not.
Okay, because I would not be for having personnel interviews in a public meeting online, because I think that's inappropriate. Oh, what I was going to say is, in industry, I've interviewed many people, but I was never the hiring manager. I'm used to a situation in industry where the manager of the department made the decision, but he would have various staff people that work for him who would be working with the new candidate, interview them and provide feedback to them. But then the decision always actually stayed with them. I'm not saying it should be, just saying that's what I'm familiar with in industry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Yes, I'd like to clarify a few things. Number one, we have over the years made motions under new business numerous times. There isn't, and you can ask staff, there isn't anything that indicates that we cannot do that. But I'd rather not make a motion while he's not here. I don't think that's fair. He doesn't get to speak to it, so I'm not comfortable doing that. That's why I'm making a formal request. Commissioner Van Sickle, anybody who's ever served on a school board or council, or even many of the boards of commissioners, it is a common practice to interview individuals for city manager, finance director, things of that nature in an open forum in front of an audience. That's a very common practice in our job. And Oakland County actually had a public vote where Patty was there introducing herself, talking to them, and it was question and answer, and there was a public vote for her when she went over there. So they actually do have the full board vote on the position. With respect to that person works closely with the board chair, there's a misunderstanding, number one, about what the board chair's position is supposed to be since the county exec came into place. And it doesn't help that it got lifted from $65,000 to $90,000 when our own compensation study said that $65,000 was an overpayment for the nature of the job. So that's point number one. Point number two, the chief of staff is the point person for each and every commissioner. When I have a problem with a constituent, I call the chief of staff. I called the chief of staff several times a week for several different issues. If I need information on what department to call or who to talk to or anything else, that's the point person for each and every one of us. That is not the chief of staff to the board chair. So I want to make sure that's why we reorganized. I mean, we reorganized, we changed the position after it, things changed over from the other form of government. But I mean, we can have this debate next week. I just wanted to answer those questions, and I don't need to speak to it anymore.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. That was going to be my suggestion. That's the debate we're going to have next week. I'm putting it on the agenda. So any conversation we're having now without Chair Brown attending the meeting, it can be put off until the next full board meeting, if in fact it gets on the agenda. So thank you.
No, thank you. I suggested that about 5 minutes ago. Seeing no other speakers, we're moving on to agenda item 10, public participation. This is the second opportunity for public participation for those who wish to speak a maximum of 5 minutes on an item that's not on today's agenda. Earlier we had it for those on the agenda. Public participation is for those planning to speak during public participation, please be advised, according to Rule 21 of the adopted board rules, personal attacks, coarse and derogatory language, and cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be removed from the meeting. Also, those who call in by phone, you can *6 to unmute yourself. For public participation, you'll be asked to speak first in an orderly fashion. Those who join virtually will be asked to type their name in the Google chat box. Those names will be called in the order of which they are received. Staff, do we have anyone that, I don't see anyone in the Google chat box. Do we have anyone on the phone?
Chair, we do not appear to have anyone on the phone either.
Thank you very much. I'll wait just another moment. Public participation. All right. Item number 10,
Motion to adjourn, Romano.
Support Van Sickle.
At this point, we're on agenda item number 11, adjournment, made by Romano, supported by Van Sickle. Mike, please put the vote.
Verbal vote by Romano, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe wants to get on that boat.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you very much, commissioners. You all have a great evening. Take care.